Welcome back to the Daily House family. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here because today we're diving into something truly magical, creating that dreamy, romantic full farmhouse aesthetic inspired by Anthropologie's signature soft touches. If you've ever wandered through an Anthropologie store and felt completely enchanted by their layered textures, vintage finds, and that effortless bohemian elegance, you're going to love this transformation journey. We'll explore how to bring that same romantic, lived-in luxury to every corner of your farmhouse, from your welcoming exterior to your coziest reading nook. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're excited about full decorating, and subscribe for your weekly dose of design inspiration. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Your farmhouse exterior sets the stage for the romantic full story unfolding inside. Think weathered wood shutters in sage green or dusty blue, colors that Anthropologie loves for their vintage, time-worn appeal. Layer in copper planters filled with burgundy mums, trailing ivy, and ornamental kill for that effortless abundance. A vintage-inspired wreath made from eucalyptus, dried hydrangeas, and soft wheat creates that perfect imperfect beauty Anthropologie is known for. Consider adding string lights with Edison bulbs draped along your porch railings. They provide that warm, romantic glow that makes every evening feel like a fairy tale. The key is embracing patina and character over pristine perfection. Your entryway should feel like a warm embrace, channeling Anthropologie's layered, collected over time aesthetic. Install vintage-inspired hooks and aged brass or black iron for coats and hats. Think pieces that look like treasured flea market finds. A weathered wood bench with plump linen cushions in warm ochre or dusty rose provides seating while adding that soft, romantic touch above. Hang an ornate mirror with a carved wooden frame that feels like it has stories to tell. Layer vintage Persian runner over natural jute for texture contrast. Fill a galvanized metal basket with autumn branches. And don't forget a brass tray for keys. Functionality wrapped in beauty, just like Anthropologie designs it. Transform your living room into an Anthropologie-inspired sanctuary where romance meets rustic charm. Start with a neutral linen sofa, then layer in velvet pillows in jewel tones. Think emerald, sapphire, and amethyst. Drape a vintage-inspired throw in cream or blush over one arm for that effortlessly styled look. A reclaimed wood coffee table topped with brass candlesticks, vintage books, and a ceramic bowl filled with dried pomegranates creates the perfect vignette. Anthropologie loves mixing metals, so combine a brass floor lamp with iron picture frames. Add a vintage Turkish rug and muted florals to anchor the space. The secret is layering textures, smooth ceramics, rough wood, soft fabrics, creating that rich, tactile experience Anthropologie masters so beautifully. Your dining room table is where Anthropologie's romantic farmhouse aesthetic truly shines through carefully curated tablescapes. Start with a linen runner in warm cream or dusty sage. Then layer brass candlesticks of varying heights. This light tarnish adds character. Mix vintage ceramic plates in soft whites and blush tones with brass or copper chargers for that collected over time feeling. Fresh eucalyptus garland woven with fairy lights creates an enchanting centerpiece that feels both organic and magical. Add vintage glassware in amber or soft green. These imperfect pieces tell stories and catch light beautifully. Don't forget cloth napkins in rich autumn hues tied with hemp rope. The key is creating abundance while maintaining the effortless, romantic elegance that makes every meal feel special and every gathering memorable. Your farmhouse kitchen becomes pure poetry when you embrace Anthropologie's romantic approach to everyday spaces. Swap harsh overhead lighting for warm pendant lights with rattan or brass shades that cast dancing shadows. Style open shelving with vintage ceramic pitchers, copper pots, and mason jars filled with dried beans and grains. Your refrigerator gets a romantic makeover with a vintage-inspired herb garden and copper planters on top. Round your coffee station, create a morning ritual corner with a brass front press, vintage ceramic mugs, and a small wooden tray holding raw sugar and cinnamon sticks. Replace cabinet hardware with aged brass poles that feel like treasured antiques. The magic happens in the details. Think wooden cutting boards displayed like art and fresh herbs in vintage bottles catching morning light. Your family room proves that technology and romance can coexist beautifully when styled with Anthropologie's Dreamy approach. Frame your flat-screen TV with a reclaimed wood mantle adorned with brass candlesticks and vintage botanical prints. Choose a sectional in warm linen or soft velvet, then layer it with an abundance of pillows in mixed textures. Think embroidered florals, cable knit, and fox fur. A vintage trunk serves as both coffee table and hidden storage for remotes and games. Add a brass floor lamp with a linen shade for ambient lighting that competes beautifully with screen glow. Incorporate a vintage ladder shelf displaying curated books, small potted plants, and ceramic treasures. The goal is creating a space where movie nights feel like romantic retreats and family time becomes truly magical. Transform your home office into an Anthropologie-inspired sanctuary where productivity meets romance. Choose a vintage writing desk in weathered wood or painted in soft sage green. Pieces with character and history. Your desk chair gets a cozy makeover with a sheepskin throw or linen cushion in blush tones. Style your desk with brass accessories, a vintage-inspired desk lamp, a wooden letter tray, and a small analog clock with Roman numerals for that timeless appeal. Add a vintage brass radio for ambient music during work sessions. Wall-mounted floating shelves in reclaimed would display leather-bound journals, small potted succulents, and inspiring art pieces. A vintage Persian rug defines the space while adding warmth underfoot. The secret is creating a workspace that feels more like a romantic study than a sterile office. Every romantic farmhouse needs a reading nook that feels like stepping into an Anthropologie catalog. Position a vintage velvet armchair in dusty rose or sage green near a window. Adding a plush ottoman for ultimate comfort, layer in a soft throw blanket and a few small pillows in complementary textures. A vintage brass floor lamp with warm bulb provides perfect reading light while adding romantic ambience. Create a small side table vignette with a ceramic mug, a vintage brass magnifying glass, and a small potted plant. Floating shelves above display your most beautiful books alongside small treasures. Think vintage ceramics, dried flowers, and brass bookends. A small vintage rug anchors the space while adding warmth. This corner should feel like your personal sanctuary where every afternoon becomes a romantic escape into literature and dater. Evening. Your master bedroom becomes a romantic retreat worthy of Anthropologie's dreamiest catalog pages. Start with linen bedding in warm whites or soft blush. Then layer in vintage quilts and velvet pillows for texture contrast. A weathered wood headboard or vintage iron frame sets the farmhouse foundation. Bedside tables in mismatched vintage pieces. Perhaps one painted nightstand and one natural wood. Embrace that collected over time aesthetic. Brass table lamps with linen shades cast the most romantic glow. Hang flowing curtains in natural linen that puddle slightly on the floor for that effortless luxury feeling. A vintage Persian rug adds warmth and pattern. Don't forget fresh flowers in a ceramic pitcher and perhaps a vintage jewelry dish. Small touches that make every morning feel special and every evening feel like a romantic retreat. Your guest bedroom should make visitors feel like they've been transported to a romantic countryside inn. Choose bedding in soft neutrals, cream, sage, or dusty lavender. Then add personality with vintage quilts and embroidered pillows. A vintage wooden trunk at the foot of the bed provides storage while adding character. Create a small reading corner with a vintage chair and side table styled with fresh flowers and a few beautiful oaks. Hang vintage botanical prints in mismatched frames for that collected over time feeling Anthropologie loves. A vintage mirror propped against the wall adds both function and romantic charm. Fresh linens, a small dish of lavender sachets, and a handwritten welcome note on vintage paper complete the experience. The goal is making guests feel cherished and surrounded by beauty from the moment they arrive. Even your farmhouse bathroom can embody Anthropologie's romantic aesthetic with thoughtful styling. Replace standard fixtures with vintage-inspired brass faucets and hardware that feel like antique tray. Assures, style your vanity with apothecary, jars filled with bath salts, cotton balls, and dried flowers. A vintage wooden stool holds rolled towels in soft linen or organic cotton. Hang plants and macrame holders for that bohemian touch Anthropologie loves. Your shower gets romantic with a vintage-style brass shower head and organic cotton curtain in soft white or cream. Add warmth with a vintage Persian runner and perhaps a small wooden ladder for hanging towels. Soft lighting from vintage-inspired sconces creates ambience. While ceramic dishes hold soaps and small treasures, the transformation proves that even the most practical spaces can become romantic retreats. Your powder room becomes a jewel box of Anthropologie-inspired romance despite its compact size. Choose wallpaper with soft florals or vintage botanical prints that feel like pages from an old garden jay. Urnal, a vintage vanity in painted wood, perhaps sage green or dusty blue, becomes the room's romantic focal point. Style this space with a vintage brass mirror, small ceramic vessels for hand soap, and a tiny vase with fresh flowers. Brass wall sconces provide warm, romantic lighting that makes every guest feel pampered. A small vintage stilt can hold extra towels or simply add visual interest. Even the smallest details matter. Think vintage hand towels, a small dish of potpourri, and perhaps a tiny ceramic bird or brass treasure. The goal is creating a space so charming that guests linger a moment longer, enchanted by the romantic details. Your farmhouse garage proves that even the most practical spaces can embrace romantic farmhouse style. Install vintage-inspired hooks and racks in black iron for tools and equipment. Choose pieces that look like they came from an old farmhouse. Workshop, wooden crates and galvanized metal bins provide organized storage while adding authentic farmhouse texture. A vintage workbench, whether found or die-aged, becomes both functional workspace and beautiful focal point. String Edison bulb, lights overhead for warm, romantic lighting that makes evening projects feel special. Paint walls in soft whites or sage green to brighten the space while maintaining farmhouse charm. Add vintage signs, perhaps advertising old farm equipment or local businesses for character. Even practical elements like shelving can be styled beautifully with vintage jars holding screws and small tools, proving that organization and romance go hand in hand. Your farmhouse patio becomes an outdoor extension of Anthropologie's romantic interior aesthetic. Choose vintage-inspired outdoor furniture. Think wrought iron chairs with soft cushions and warm neutrals, or distressed wood tables with character. Layer in outdoor rugs with vintage patterns that can weather the elements while adding softness underfoot. String lights overhead create magical ambience for evening gatherings, while vintage lanterns on tables provide intimate lighting. Style with galvanized metal planters filled with mums, ornamental cabbages, and trailing ivy for that abundant garden feeling. A vintage wooden bench against the house provides extra seating while displaying potted herbs and seasonal flowers. Add romance with flowing outdoor curtains and weather-resistant fabrics. The goal is creating an outdoor room that feels like an extension of your interior spaces. equally romantic and infinitely inviting. Anthropologie's genius lies in their masterful layering of textures, and this principle transforms any farmhouse into a romantic retreat. Start with foundational fabrics like linen and cotton. Then add layers of velvet, wool, and fox fur for depth and interest. Mix smooth ceramics with rough-hewn wood, soft fabrics with aged metals. The key is contrast. Pair a sleek brass lamp with a chunky knit throw, or place smooth river rocks in a rough wooden bowl. Don't be afraid to mix patterns, but keep them in the same color family for cohesion. Anthropologie often combines florals with geometrics, stripes with paisleys, always tied together by a romantic color palette. Remember, every surface should invite touch. This tactile quality is what makes Anthropologie spaces feel so alive and romantic. Anthropologie's full farmhouse palette goes far beyond traditional autumn colors, embracing a sophisticated range of romantic hues. Start with warm neutrals as your foundation, cream, mushroom, and soft taupe create the perfect backdrop. Then, add personality with dusty rose, sage green, and warm terracotta for that romantic, earthy feeling. Don't overlook Anthropologie's signature unexpected colors, soft lavender, dusty blue, and warm amber that feel both vintage and fresh. The secret is using colors in unexpected ways. Perhaps dusty rose kitchen cabinets or sage green bathroom vanity. Metallics play a crucial role too. Aged brass, copper, and pewter add warmth and romance. Remember, Anthropologie's approach is never matchy-matchy. Instead, colors should feel like they've been collected over time, each piece chosen for its beauty rather than its coordination. Creating an Anthropologie-inspired farmhouse is all about the thrill of the hunt for unique, romantic pieces with stories to tell. Look for vintage brass mirrors with ornate frames, ceramic pitchers with crazing that speaks of age, and wooden furniture with beautiful patina. Flea markets, estate sales, and antique shops are gold mines for these treasures. Don't overlook imperfections. Chips, scratches, and worn edges add character and romance. Anthropologie often features pieces that look handmade or artisanal, so seek out pottery with visible throwing marks, textiles with slight irregularities, and furniture with hand-carved details. Remember, it's not about finding expensive antiques. It's about discovering pieces with soul and character that make your heart sing. The most romantic farmhouse spaces feel curated, not decorated, filled with pieces that each have their own beautiful story. Lighting transforms any farmhouse into an Anthropologie-worthy romantic retreat, and the secret is layering multiple light sources for depth and warmth. Overhead lighting should be warm and soft. Think vintage-inspired chandeliers with Edison bulbs or pendant lights with rattan shades. Table lamps and floor lamps in brass with linen shades create pools of intimate light perfect for evening conversations. Candles are essential. Mix brass candlesticks of varying heights on mantels and tables, choosing unscented options in warm whites or soft creams. String lights aren't just for holidays. Drape them in unexpected places like round mirrors or along bookshelves for magical sparkle. Salt lamps add warm amber glow while vintage lanterns create focal points. The goal is avoiding harsh overhead lighting in favor of multiple gentle sources that make every moment feel romantic and every gathering feel special. Anthropologie's romantic farmhouse aesthetic celebrates the beauty of natural elements, bringing organic textures and living greenery into every space. Fresh flowers are essential. Choose varieties with romantic associations like garden roses, peonies, or eucalyptus arranged in vintage ceramic or brass vessels. Potted plants add life and softness. Consider trailing pothoes and hanging macrame planters, fiddle leaf figs in vintage ceramic pots, or herb gardens in galvanized metal containers. Incorporate natural materials through wooden bowls filled with seasonal fruits, branches of pussy willow or forsythia, and collections of smooth river stones. Dried flowers and grasses add texture without maintenance. Think dried hydrangeas with stalks, or pampas grass in tall ceramic vessels. The secret is making these natural elements feel intentional and curated, not random, creating vignettes that celebrate the beauty of the natural world. Your farmhouse bedroom becomes a romantic retreat when styled with Anthropologie's signature dreamy touches. Layer your bed with linen sheets in soft whites or warm grays. Then add a vintage quilt or coverlet in muted florals or paisley patterns. Mix pillow sizes and textures. Velvet lumbar pillows, embroidered European gems, and soft linen squares create that luxurious, collected look. A vintage wooden bench at the foot of the bed holds extra blankets and adds romantic charm. Bedside styling matters. Vintage brass lamps with warm bulbs, ceramic dishes for jewelry, and fresh flowers in small vessels. Consider a vintage vanity with an ornate mirror for that feminine romantic touch. Flowing curtains in natural linen that puddle on the floor add softness and romance. The goal is creating a space that feels like a romantic countryside and where every night is a restful retreat. Your farmhouse bathroom becomes a spa-like sanctuary when infused with Anthropologie's romantic sensibility. Replace standard vanity lighting with vintage-inspired brass sconces that cast warm, flattering light. Style your vanity counter with apothecary jars containing bath salts, cotton swabs, and other necessities. Functionality wrapped in beauty. A vintage wooden stool or small bench adds warmth and provides a place for towels or plants. Incorporate natural elements through potted plants that thrive in humidity. Think Boston ferns or snake plants in vintage ceramic pots. Your shower area gets romance through a vintage-style brass shower head and organic cotton curtain in soft white or cream. Add warmth with a vintage runner and perhaps some brass hooks for robes and towels. The transformation proves that even the most practical spaces can become romantic when styled with intention and love. The beauty of Anthropologie's aesthetic is how effortlessly it transitions through fall's changing moods, and your farmhouse can capture this seasonal evolution. Early fall calls for fresh mums, green pumpkins, and branches with changing leaves. As autumn deepens, incorporate richer textures. Swap cotton throws for wool, add deeper colored pillows, and bring in branches of red and gold leaves. Late fall embraces the romance of dormancy. Dried hydrangeas bear branches in tall vessels, and the soft glow of more candles as daylight fades. The secret is subtle transitions rather than dramatic overhauls. Change out small accessories, swap pillow covers, and adjust your color palette gradually. This approach feels natural and lived in rather than decorated for a season. Anthropologie's magic lies in this effortless evolution that makes your home feel alive and connected to nature's rhythms. Shopping Anthropologie for your romantic farmhouse requires strategy to maximize impact while staying budget conscious. Focus on investment pieces that make the biggest visual impact: lighting fixtures, mirrors, and large textiles like rugs or throws. These foundational pieces can transform entire rooms. For smaller accessories, mix Anthropologie treasures with similar pieces from other sources. Their styling teaches you what to look for elsewhere. Pay attention to Anthropologie's seasonal collections, often featuring limited-time pieces perfect for full farmhouse style. Don't overlook their home fragrance. Candles and diffusers can instantly create that Anthropologie atmosphere. Sale seasons are perfect for snagging those dreamy pieces you've been admiring. Remember, it's not about filling your home with Anthropologie products. It's about understanding their aesthetic principles and applying them thoughtfully throughout your space. You can capture Anthropologie's romantic farmhouse aesthetic through thoughtful DIY projects that channel their signature style. Each new brass hardware with patina's solution for that vintage look they love. Create your own. Botanical wall art by pressing autumn leaves and flowers, then framing them in vintage-style frames. Make romantic pillow covers using drop cloths, vintage scarves, or thrifted fabric with interesting textures. Transform plain ceramic vessels with milk paint and Anthropologie's signature dusty hues. Create your own vintage-inspired signage using reclaimed wood and hand lettering. The key is embracing imperfection. Slight irregularities and handmade qualities are what make pieces feel authentic and romantic. Focus on projects that add texture, warmth, and character rather than trying to achieve perfection. These handmade touches add soul to your space while keeping costs manageable. Creating an Anthropologie-inspired romantic farmhouse doesn't require an unlimited budget. It requires creativity and strategic spending. Invest in a few key pieces that provide maximum impact: a beautiful rug, stunning lighting, or one statement piece of furniture. Then fill in with budget-friendly finds styled with Anthropologie's eye for beauty. Thrift stores and estate sales are gold mines for vintage pieces that just need a little love. Learn to see potential in pieces that need minor updates, fresh paint, new hardware, or simple styling can transform ordinary items into romantic treasures. Focus on textures and layering rather than expensive individual pieces. A $5 vintage brass candlestick can look just as romantic as an expensive one when styled thoughtfully. Remember, Anthropologie's magic isn't about price tags. It's about creating spaces that feel collected, loved, and beautifully imperfect. The beauty of Anthropologie's aesthetic is how gracefully it transitions between seasons, and your romantic farmhouse can flow just as seamlessly. As fall moves toward winter, gradually replace fresh flowers with dried arrangements, swap lighter throws for heavier will pieces, and add more candles for warmth and light. The color palette can deepen slightly, perhaps adding touches of deeper burgundy or forest green while maintaining those romantic base tones. Your outdoor spaces transition by adding warm blankets to seating areas and perhaps incorporating evergreen elements for winter interest. The key is evolution rather than complete renovation. Small changes in accessories, lighting, and natural elements keep your space feeling fresh and connected to the seasons while maintaining that romantic farmhouse foundation. This approach feels authentic and lived in rather than decorated, capturing the essence of what makes Anthropologie spaces so compelling. Entertaining in your Anthropologie-inspired farmhouse is about creating experiences that feel romantic and memorable rather than perfect and formal. Set tables with mismatched vintage plates, brass chargers, and flowing cloth napkins tied with natural hemp. Candlelight is essential. Use brass candlesticks of varying heights down table centers, supplemented by small votives throughout the space. Fresh flowers should feel garden gathered rather than florist perfect. Loose arrangements in vintage vessels create the most romantic impact. Create cozy conversation areas with extra pillows and throws that invite guests to linger and relax. Ambient lighting from multiple sources, table lamps, string lights, candles, creates an enchanting atmosphere. The menu can be simple, but presentation matters. Serve appetizers on vintage wooden boards, drinks in mason jars, or vintage glassware. Remember, Anthropologie's approach to entertaining is about creating beauty and warmth that makes every gathering feel special and every guest feel treasured. Anthropologie's romantic farmhouse aesthetic aligns beautifully with sustainable living principles, making your home both beautiful and environmentally conscious. Choose vintage and antique pieces that have stood the test of time rather than buying new This approach adds character while reducing environmental impact. When purchasing new items, look for pieces made from sustainable materials, reclaimed wood furniture, organic cotton textiles, and locally made ceramics. Repurpose items creatively. Old ladder shelves, vintage suitcases as storage, or antique doors as headboards. Support local artisans whose handmade pieces add unique character to your space. Choose LED bulbs in warm tones for energy efficiency without sacrificing romantic ambience. Focus on quality over quantity. A few beautiful, well-made pieces last longer and look better than many cheap items. This approach to decorating feels authentic to both Farmhouse values and Anthropologie's appreciation for craftsmanship and character. Small farmhouse spaces can be just as romantic as sprawling country homes when styled with Anthropologie's clever approach to compact living. Use mirrors strategically. Vintage ornate frames reflect light and create the illusion of more space while adding romantic character. Choose furniture that serves multiple purposes. Vintage trunks for storage and seating, nesting tables that tuck away when not needed, and ottomans with hidden storage. Vertical space becomes crucial. Floating shelves display collections while keeping floors clear, and tall plants draw the eye upward. Light colors and natural materials keep spaces feeling open and airy. The key is editing ruthlessly. Choose fewer pieces, but make sure each one is beautiful and meaningful. Layer textures through textiles rather than furniture to add warmth without crowding. Remember, romance isn't about square footage. It's about creating spaces that feel loved, curated, and beautifully imperfect. Anthropologie's romantic farmhouse magic happens in the details, specifically in how they style small vignettes throughout their spaces. A perfect vignette combines three key elements: varying heights, mixed textures, and a unifying color. Start with a foundational piece like a vintage wooden tray or ceramic plate. Then add items of different heights, perhaps a tall brass candlestick, a medium ceramic vessel, and a small vintage treasure. Include something natural like fresh flowers or interesting stones. The rule of three works beautifully. Group items in odd numbers for visual interest. Don't forget negative space. Crowded vignettes lose their impact. Rotate accessories seasonally to keep displays feeling fresh and intentional. Each vignette should tell a small story and contribute to the overall romantic narrative of your space. This attention to styling details is what elevates a simple farmhouse into an Anthropologie-worthy, romantic retreat. Hunting for vintage treasures to create your Anthropologie-inspired farmhouse is half the fun of the decorating process. Arrive at flea markets and estate sales early for the best selection, but also return near closing for potential deals. Look beyond obvious categories. Kitchen items can become bathroom accessories, old books become decor, and vintage linens can be repurposed as pillow covers. Train your eye to see potential. A tarnished brass piece just needs polishing. Painted furniture can be stripped to reveal beautiful wood. And vintage fabric can be turned into curtains or upholstery. Don't be afraid to negotiate, especially when buying multiple items. Bring a measuring tape and know your space dimensions. Most importantly, buy pieces that speak to you emotionally. Anthropologie's magic comes from pieces that feel personally meaningful rather than just stylistically appropriate. Trust your instincts when something feels romantically perfect for your space. Anthropologie's approach to romantic farmhouse style proves that beautiful spaces come from mixing high and low pieces with confidence and creativity. Invest in a few key pieces that anchor each room, perhaps a stunning vintage rug, a beautiful light fixture, or one piece of standout furniture. Then layer in budget-friendly finds that share similar aesthetic qualities. A $200 Anthropologie mirror looks just as stunning when surrounded by $15 vintage brass candlesticks from a flea market. The key is understanding the aesthetic principles: romantic colors, interesting textures, vintage character, and artisanal qualities. Train your eye to recognize these qualities regardless of price point. Sometimes the most budget-friendly pieces become the most beloved. That perfect vintage pitcher found for $3 might become your favorite vase. This democratic approach to beauty makes Anthropologie's style accessible while creating spaces that feel personally curated and romantically authentic. Your Anthropologie-inspired romantic farmhouse should feel beautiful and relevant throughout the year, not just during fall's peak. The foundation remains constant, your color palette, major furniture pieces, and lighting create the romantic farmhouse backbone. Seasonal changes happen through accessories, textiles, and natural elements. Winter brings heavier wool throws, more candles, and evergreen branches. Spring introduces fresh flowers, lighter fabrics, and young branches with new leaves. Summer calls for flowing curtains, fresh herbs in vintage vessels, and perhaps lighter rugs. Each transition should feel natural and effortless, like the home is simply responding to nature's rhythms. Store seasonal accessories in vintage suitcases or wooden crates that can be displayed as part of your decor. This approach keeps your space feeling alive and connected to the natural world while maintaining that romantic farmhouse foundation that makes Anthropologie's aesthetic so timelessly appealing. Understanding Anthropologie's approach to romantic farmhouse style is about developing a curator's eye for beauty, character, and storytelling through objects. They see beauty in imperfection. The chip in a ceramic vase, the patina, an old brass mirror, the faded colors in a vintage rug. This appreciation for wabi-sabi, the Japanese concept of finding beauty in imperfection, is central to their aesthetic. They value handmade over machine-made, unique over uniform, and pieces with stories over brand new items. When you shop or style, ask yourself, does this piece have character? Does it tell a story? Would it fit into a romantic novel set in the countryside? This mindset helps you recognize authentic pieces that contribute to the overall romantic narrative of your space. Remember, Anthropologie's magic isn't about following rules. It's about trusting your instincts for beauty and romance. We've journeyed through every corner of your farmhouse, transforming each space into a romantic retreat worthy of Anthropologie's most dreamy catalog pages. Remember, creating this aesthetic isn't about perfection. It's about embracing beauty, character, and that collected over time feeling that makes a house feel like a beloved home. The magic happens in the layers, soft textiles mixed with aged metals, vintage treasures paired with natural elements, and warm lighting that makes every moment feel special. Your romantic farmhouse should tell your story, filled with pieces that make your heart sing and spaces that invite you to linger and dream. I hope you're feeling inspired to start your own romantic transformation. If this video sparked some decorating dreams, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the Daily House for more design inspiration delivered right to your inbox. Drop a comment below sharing your favorite Anthropologie-inspired tip. I love hearing about your decorating adventures. Until next time, keep creating spaces that make your heart happy.